Oh, baby. Welcome in, everybody. We got 1 day of the Cold War season left, which is insane. 1 day of the second annual season of the Call of Duty League. And so today we're talking about all the action of the third day of COD Champs and breaking down everything that happened today and talking about the future of some of these teams who got eliminated today as well. And we have our grand finals matchup for tomorrow. So we have a lot to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. Let's freaking go. All right, so our first match of the day was the winners finals match. So there was a lot of hype going into this one about both of these teams, obviously, with FaZe and with Dallas coming into this match, both looking really good. And FaZe, I mean, they proved why they're the best team on the season, why they've been 34-7 in the regular season heading into this tournament. They absolutely wiped the floor with Dallas, and they showed why they're the favorite to win this tournament. And it was insane, man. I mean, map one, they put Garrison hardpoint 250 to 118 for FaZe. And what's crazy is that they nearly threw that first P2, P3 rotation. And I was like, oh my word, this is ugly from FaZe. This is a bad sign. And then immediately they completely U-turn the map. Simp catches fire early. Then Celium catches fire. And their setups on the P1 and P2s, really the P5, end of P5, P1, P2s in the second rotation of Hills was insane. Celium got streaks. It was just disgusting. I mean, overall, it showed the upside and kind of the scary upside potential of FaZe playing against a team who's really good on Garrison in Dallas. And we saw how good Dallas played in Garrison later on in the day. Celium went 29-13 with 5,400 damage, and Simp went 23-12. They were both absolutely frying and looked disgusting and had multiple insane plays, highlight plays on the map. And it kind of felt like, I mean, Dallas couldn't get any top green control at all. And I mean, usually top green control is like the key to unlocking this map, and the battle for top green is basically usually how you do that. And FaZe dominated top green. That's where we saw a lot of the big time plays from FaZe, or from Simp and from Celium, kind of happen from up there as well. And so overall, an insanely dominant map one performance. And then you head into the map two, which was a raid S&D, and this thing goes the distance. And Dallas, heading into this series, had been playing some really good S&D, and that was kind of why I had originally picked FaZe to win 3-1, is because I thought, you know, maybe Dallas ends up taking this S&D here. I mean, right out the gate, a BZ finds a three-piece inside kitchen. He's shooting their bodies, and it looked like FaZe was going to dominate the map, but Dallas started bringing it back, and they started capitalizing or finding some first bloods and winning some rounds. And what's crazy to me is that they really kind of threw this map. Like, they lost a 2v3, and they lost 2 3v4s where they got the first bloods. And even though the bomb was down, and so like FaZe did a good job of getting the bomb down without even losing a player, and that can be crucial to a team's success in S&D. But overall, I mean, the team play from FaZe was insane, and then not to mention Simp had some highlight level plays in this game with like the three-piece in that 2v3 inside mid. And then, of course, in round 11, the Simp's two-piece where he wasn't traded inside Tiki was crazy. And so, again, every time it feels like FaZe shouldn't be winning these rounds, they find a way to find that first kill, and then they capitalize and they really pounce on you when they get you weak, and they trade kills better than anybody. And so I'm sure we'll talk more about FaZe tomorrow, but it was really insane. And you head into the control on raid, and FaZe dominated 3-1. I mean, a BZ went 33-22. Simp was 30-23. I mean, Simp, you know, had maybe some questionable streak usage in round 2 and 3, which might have been a little bit cocky from them to try to pull those out, but it made the round a little bit, or the map a little bit crazier than it probably needed to be. And, you know, if you're playing against a team, and if a team's in like a good form when they're playing against you, I mean, you can't be using streaks like that and expect to win. So I'm sure they'll probably try to keep that reeled in a little bit more tomorrow when they play against the Ultra. But it's just crazy overall. I mean, again, it's just another dominant performance, and Dallas just looked completely outmatched. I mean, they were somewhat exposed. I mean, the ARs in that control really struggled. I mean, just, you know, statistically, I mean, Krim was 15-26 and Illy was 21-31. They weren't converting the kills around the map at all. And it really came down to some of their positioning, and the SMDs, I felt like were getting a little bit ahead of their ARs, and there was a little bit of a mismatched type of pacing there with the players in that match, and the communication seemed a little bit hectic as well. So I don't know, that was a little bit of a weird series, and Dallas just did not look good, which definitely didn't inspire confidence for when, you know, you get sent down to losers and have to play in this losers finals match against the winner of this Toronto Rokkr match. So now we hit on to the second match today, which was the losers quarters match, or the losers semis match, which was Ultra versus Rokkr. And map 1 was checkmate. And this was the first big question mark for me where I was like, a little bit surprised that Rokkr was willing to play the Ultra on checkmate again. Obviously, the reason why the Rokkr are like okay or are happy with playing checkmate is because of their success against some of the best teams in the CDL during stage 5. Like they beat FaZe, Empire, and Toronto on it at first in the major. But then of course in the grand finals, the Ultra absolutely fried them, smoked them, destroyed them, ended them, like 250 to whatever it was, 38 or whatever it was in the grand finals of Major 5. And then the Ultra just were playing great on checkmate leading into that series as well. They had won 3 straight checkmates and looked really, really good, beating Optic on it. And like overall, I didn't really feel like playing the Ultra on checkmate was probably their best option. I think there's some other hardpoint maps where you maybe would rather take a chance potentially, but either way, they got 100-point clipped. Toronto absolutely fried, and they had an awesome listen in there. And like, those are the things where I get really excited about Toronto and the teamwork and the well put together pushes that this team can have. Like the communication was just so smooth and clean, and really communicating like their lines of sight and helping each other around the map. I thought it was just a great listening. Maybe like a learn from the pros type listen that we can talk to eventually down the channel here. But CleanX dominated. He went like 30 and 15. And also going into that match, Maven referred to Bance as the purple assassin. And I'll be honest, I'm all in on this. I'm all in for Bance to be called the purple assassin solely because of how he dresses in their hype video, which I think they're like their intro video is absolute flames. But comedy overall for sure. And just a really great start for the Ultra in that series. But then the map 2 gets crazy here. So the Toronto is up 5-3 on the standoff S&D in map 2, and you're like, man, this is chalked. I mean, 5-3, and it felt like everything was going Toronto's way for the most part. Insight had the pre-fire in round 8, which made it 5-3. He pre-fired the 1v2 clutch, and like at that point, it was just like, all right, this is over. You know, Insight just clutches a 1v2. You have 3 rounds to lose here. I mean, you're in good shape. And they're going to round 11, and of course, the Rokkr clutch up. I mean, like, what else do you expect to happen, you know? With this team finally attached, watches the flank, and they kill Bance, and they get it all sorted out. I love that play overall to minimize the damage there and really identify that flank push. And Rokkr clutch up in round 11. So then you go on to the map 3 on raid checkmate, or raid control, and the Ultra end up winning 3-2. And what the difference in this map was Priesta twice was 1 kill off streaks and died. The first time, Cammy popped an insane 2-piece to end his streak, and then he got shut down by Insight 1 kill off streaks again later in the match. And I mean, it was a crazy control because again, it went round 5, and some of the stats in this game were nuts. Like CleanX was 37 and 41, so he had 78 engagements, which is outrageous. And overall, the composure from the Ultra, like after you kind of choke or, you know, you kind of hand away the 5-3 lead in the S&D, to come out here and win the control in a really mixy control match, I thought was really, really impressive. And just overall, there was a handful of different moments where you thought that the Rokkr could have clutched it. Like Standy found a kill inside kitchen, and instead of like running into cash to play towards B zone in round 5, he like tried to play his life inside kitchen instead of helping his teammates, and then he ends up getting killed inside kitchen, and they don't stack the B zone, and they basically end up losing by 1 tick, and that tick could have been the difference if they end up getting that tick right there. So I thought maybe that was a pretty big mistake for a Standy, maybe not to go over and play with his teammates a little bit better there. But overall, I mean, Standy obviously played an insane, freaky weekend to say the least. But Priest and Attach also played really, really well in that match, but it just really came down to that kitchen P3 play, or the kitchen play overall towards the zone. So map 4 was again raid, and another really crazy match because the difference here was Standy in the second rotation. And what changed the game was when what you're seeing here in the little gameplay is the Rokkr were on the rotation. Well, Toronto had already chalked the P2, and so they were playing for P3, and the Rokkr pushed out early from that P2 and basically killed the whole Ultra team on the rotation at the end of the P2 hill. So they all spawned up back behind P2 back behind jungle. So it spawned them all the way out. Standy found a few kills there, and Standy stays alive for the rest of the game for like multiple minutes. All of the rest of P2, all of P3, and all of P4, Standy stays alive, is on like a 10+ kill spree, finds streaks, and basically is the reason why the Rokkr end up winning that round, playing for converting the spawns. And it was an insane stretch for Standy. Absolutely freaky in that map. So you force a game 5 for the Rokkr forcing game 5 on Moscow. And the last time they played, the Ultra played a really, really impressive series on Moscow and beat the Rokkr. And so I was assuming the Rokkr or the Ultra would probably clutch up here, but Major Maniac made it really, really mixy with some insane a 3-piece early that clutched the round, make it to keep them in the game. And overall, I would say that it just felt like the Rokkr were giving up their lives a little bit too much. This was talked about a lot in the broadcast as well, was how, you know, whoever it was kind of getting caught as the island player on Moscow and just not doing a great job of playing their lives. And that really came back to bite the Rokkr. And overall, the Ultra were rotating the bombs really, really well. Shocker, they're a really good Moscow S&D team, which we already knew for sure. And it's just really fun watching the Ultra play S&D because of how well they rotate bomb sites. And that was definitely evident in this series as well. And that eliminated the Rokkr from CoD champs. And so it definitely sucks. They end up winning 6-4. And it just overall, first thing I really like is that the Battle of the North, this Ultra versus Rokkr kind of rivalry, has really, I mean, it has some wings now, with the Ultra getting reverse swept by the Rokkr in the grand finals of stage 5. Now the Ultra get their revenge in CoD champs. Overall, a really fun narrative to kind of drive in the next year and kind of develop as a little rivalry in the CoD scene moving forward. I think it's really, really cool. And I mean, the Rokkr played an awesome event, and they performed better than I thought they were going to perform. I wasn't sure if they could get top 4. I had them getting top 6 at this event, and so they made it even farther than I thought, and they had every opportunity to make it to the losers finals as well. So they played great. Major Maniac really showed up and showed the upside that he has inside of really all 3 game modes, and Standy, I mean, proved that he's an absolute freak, a menace on the map with some of the plays that he made this weekend too. So next year is going to be really, really interesting for the Rokkr to kind of figure out how this roster ends up kind of figuring itself out. My initial instinct would be that it stays together, but it's very possible that they could try to make it change, or if they have an opportunity to pick up somebody else that they think gives them a little bit more upside, like maybe that could be the case. But overall, with how they played, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to stick it out and see what happens in this offseason, and then work their way to try to find some players if they need to later on in the year next year. We'll see. But we'll talk a lot about that on the podcast, obviously, this week as well, and the potential of roster changes for the Rokkr moving forward. I'd love to see your opinions on this one down below. So drop your comments down below about what you think the Rokkr are going to do in roster mania. I mean, Standy's a lock to stay on the Rokkr. The debate is, what about Priesta? What about Major Maniac? Does Priesta want to head somewhere else? Does he have an opportunity to play like for LAT or whoever it is? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see kind of how that could sort out Priesta moving forward as well. So, alrighty. This is where it gets crazy. The losers finals. Toronto versus Dallas. The winner punches their ticket to the grand finals. This was like a $350,000 match basically. And it came down to a game 5. So we had a $350,000 game 5, which is crazy to me. I mean, imagine I get nervous playing a GB that has no impact on my life really, besides that I'm live streaming it. I can't imagine what happens to someone when you're playing for that much money in one S&D map. But basically in map 1, the Empire came out and absolutely fried on Garrison. This is what I was talking about. Shotzzy looked unreal. He had a 4-piece in mid. I mean, Illy played great. Literally, there was a play where, you know, he single-handedly got the spawns on P2, which was so sick for Shotzzy. And just a dominant performance there on map 1, looked great inside the hard points. And I mean, Dallas really played great in the hard points against Toronto. The issue was the respawns and the controls, which came back to bite them, you know, throughout this weekend. So overall, I mean, Cammy had a really bad map. Now it was surprising for him on Checkmate or on Garrison. Kleenex didn't have a great map either. And overall, just the teamwork just didn't seem to really click there in that map 1 hard point. And right now it feels like you know, FaZe, at least heading into tomorrow, is going to have a pretty big advantage in the respawns, especially in the hard points against Toronto, and the S&Ds are where it gets really interesting. So speaking of S&D, in map 2 against Dallas, they played standoff. And Ultra, this is where you get the first blood plays from the Ultra that were really, really great. Bance was playing the flank incredibly well. I feel like he did his best Envoy impression, like in round 8, where he kind of slipped through. He had a gunfight with Illy in the back, and they basically saw each other. Illy like backed up to play his life for 1 second. In that 1 second span, Bance flew out towards the back spawn and made it just a great instinctual Call of Duty play. And that's the upside that you like to see from guys like that. And in a team that you're going to have to make those types of X factor plays against a team like FaZe if you want to win. And good to see Bance doing that type of stuff against even Dallas in a series like this. So that was an awesome play from the Purple Assassin. I'm trying to make it stick. And overall, just really impressed with the S&D there. I feel like Dallas was just playing some surprisingly bad S&D. And usually you see Krim doing great work with the first bloods, and he actually had a few nice first bloods in this game, but the rest of the squad just was not finding those first bloods. And Ultra had like 4 of the first 6 first bloods and were really capitalizing there. And Dallas won the 2 rounds where they got the first bloods. But overall, Toronto played a great S&D there, 6-2. So then you head on to a raid control on map 3, and this was what got really crazy. I mean, Vivid found some really, really good rhythm, and I was really impressed with like Vivid on this map for sure. You know, the Ultra, of course, ended up winning it 3-2, but like it was just insane because Cammy was the guy to talk about in this series. I mean, through the first 3 rounds, he was 12-25 after 3 rounds, and the Ultra were down 2-1 in the control. Cammy finishes the map. Again, he was 12-25. He finishes the map 33-29. Like, are you freaking kidding me? He went 21-4 in the last 2 rounds, and he got full streaks, made some massive plays. So Cammy was, again, the playmaker for Toronto after really struggling early. I thought he slowed it down a little bit better and just made some really clutch plays late to pop off and find those unreal clutch streaks in the second half there. So that was impressive. Vivid had a really nice map, but wasn't enough to convert into a dub for the Empire in rounds 4 and 5. So then you head on to the craziest map of probably the whole year in map 4, which was the Raid Hardpoint. If you haven't had a chance to watch this yet, I'd recommend checking that out because it was 250-248. Empire were down huge throughout a lot of this map. And so they were down by maybe like 60 or something points heading into P4 on a second rotation. So near the end of the game. And basically there was Kleenex had some insane 4 pieces. They had like 2 different 4 pieces basically. One on P5, one on the rotation to P4 in the second rotation. And Illy was making some crazy plays too. And inside the hill at the end of the game, Illy popped like a 3-piece with Shotzi, then a 4, like a full squad wipe inside ring to basically end the game for Dallas and to win it 250-248 on the comeback. And it was just nuts. Like overall crazy. Cammy had a crazy 4-piece in kitchen as well in that series or in that map. And so as a whole, it was like one of the wildest maps, probably the wildest map of the whole season. And with how many incredible plays there were from both teams. And then for it to end like that, 250-248 was crazy. So, I mean, Dallas clutched up to force a game 5. And then Ultra, they're really good at Express, man. They're great in Search and Destroy. And so this is what's going to get interesting in the grand finals tomorrow. Is how good the Ultra are in S&D so far. And, you know, they end up winning and eliminating the Dallas Empire 6-3. The biggest problem for Dallas was they got 3 B-bomb plants down without losing a player. So they had 3 situations where they were in a 4v4 with the bomb planted on offense, and they lost all 3 of those rounds. And that part of it was because Vivid got caught on one ramp, Shotzi got caught on the other ramp. And then you're like leaving Illy in like a 1v3 or 1v4 basically every single time. And it was just a big time breakdown of team play and like a lack of patience from Dallas, it felt like. And just overall, Vivid had a tough time staying up in this map. And then Illy just kept getting left in like 3v1s. And so it was just a tough situation overall. And just really bad S&D from Dallas, and uncharacteristically bad for how good they've been on Express on the season. So we're gonna have to see with that one, man. That was just crazy overall, and the Ultra are a legit threat tomorrow against FaZe. I mean, it was maybe more of like a hype drama match for FaZe to play Dallas, but it's definitely a better Call of Duty match for FaZe to play Dallas, and I am very much looking forward to it. I would say FaZe is the heavy favorite at this point in that series, coming from the winner side, and there's not going to be any loser's advantage this time around. FaZe has been playing great against Toronto, and they're going to have the advantages in the respawn. So the S&Ds is where it's going to really come down to, and if Toronto can win like all 4 S&Ds, maybe that's the path that Toronto has to take to potentially win 5-4. We're gonna have to see, but it's gonna be crazy, man. So as for Dallas, I mean, roster mania is gonna be really interesting for Dallas. I don't think it's a lock that this team stays together. If I had to put like an odds on it, it's more than, I would say it's an over 50% chance that they do stay together. But I mean, it kind of depends on what Shotzzy feels about Crim at this point. How does he feel about teaming with Crim? What was the whole Hook situation? How did that fall out with the rest of the team? Like, does that leave any marks on the squad heading into the rest of the year? I mean, I'm sure they're not happy with a top 3. They would have loved to be in those grand finals. So we'll see. I'm excited to talk about Empire here the rest of this year and the roster mania that ensues. I think Shotzi's interesting. I'd imagine Empire. I mean, like, Envy would have a really tough discussion. I mean, like, let's say Shotzzy doesn't want to play with Crim, and it comes down to like, all right, if you're Hastro, do you keep Shotzzy or do you keep the bigger brand and Crim 6 on your squad for the future? I don't know. It's interesting to say the least, and that could be a potential decision they have to make depending on the relationship that Crim and Shotzzy have at this point, with what I would imagine being both their contracts ending heading into next year. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about the next few weeks. And tomorrow we're going to be breaking down FaZe versus Toronto in the grand finals, and we'll see what happens, man. It's been a blast so far, and Champs has been awesome. Shout out Gersh, by the way, with the Pope uniform, the Pope costume at the sitting front row was comedy, bro. And I love that, man. I love that for sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, drop all your comments down below about Champs and your thoughts. I want to hear, I liked all your comments yesterday about Optic, and we're going to be talking a lot more about Optic moving forward as well. And all your comments about the rest of Roster Mania, what this could look like for Rokkr and for Empire heading into the offseason. But as always, guys, I really appreciate you guys watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you guys really enjoyed it. But as always, guys, I'm your boy SalvationsElite, and guys, we'll see you next time. I'm out.